Hello and welcome to another video. Today we have a big supply package of a reviewer with the following letter. Hi my Mainboard medic. As I wrote to you via email, I have some donor boards. One from an older laptop and one from a test rig which at some point wouldn't start anymore. I've also attached two MSI B550s. The B550 Gaming Edge has just some components knocked off at the SIO area. The B550 Pro A is a funny one. Won't start, but power cycles like crazy when tried. Maybe you can save this one, otherwise keep it as donor as well. Greets from a fan, Martin. So, let's have a good look. And of course, he also sent some candy, which I very like. I really love caramel and salt. So thank you very much for that. I will be enjoying that after the work. So, what we have here, we have a standard laptop charger, probably a 19-volt one, and we got a laptop as a donor board. For parts, laptop was still running, was just old. Okay, this is just an old laptop. Okay, for parts. Yeah, well, surely I will be able to take some parts off there. For example, there's also an SIO in there, so yeah. Thanks for that. Also, the power supply I will be using. So, let's get to the actual good stuff. So, right here, this is for parts. So, this one, I can already see, has a missing cover. This is a B550 Gaming XV2. Interesting. So, we are missing the cover, the socket cover, but the socket itself looks to be in fine condition. If we have a look, these look very fine. So, what else can we see? We can see some broken DDR sockets, and obviously the latch is missing off of the PCIe. But other than that, I would be interested in having a look on this board. It says for parts only, but yeah, who knows? We might want to have a look at this board just to see. Well, let's first see what else we have. We are supposed to have two more B550 boards then. Let's have a good look here. And here we have the B550 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi, I think this is, or MPG B550 Gaming Edge Wi-Fi, exactly. And ripped components around SIO. Okay, so this one will probably just need some components around the SIO, and that will hopefully already fix it. I think this is the case, this is the one that we definitely will have a look at today, just to be sure. And this is then probably going to be the funny one, as he said, that doesn't want to power up, but cycles like crazy. So this sounds like an interesting fault. So this one came from his test bench. This is an MSI B550A Pro, and it says starts without CPU, but has weird on-off behavior. Well then, weird on-off behavior could be something related to something being shorted, and I think I can already see something that is completely burned. Just first glance. Do you see that? That looks like a burned fan controller. And these ones take 12 volts and they can short at 12 volts. And yeah, that might be the default here. But let's have a first look at the other board that presumably has problems with stuff around the SIO. So let's go under the microscope then and have a good look. So let's see here together. Oh yeah, right there. So let me pop out the CMOS battery just to be sure that I don't short anything here. So we can see this component has definitely been broken. Let's get a zoom further down on this. So now with further zoomed down, we can now see better. But it's probably only that single component as far as it seems. Maybe that one. It might be worth to check this also, and maybe this one here. Oh yeah, and that capacitor right there also, it seems to have gotten a hit. Let's see, is there anything more that we can see here? So I got to be honest, it really looks like the only one that is really damaged is that one resistor that we have here. So so we will need a board view, and MSI board views are really easy to get. Let me show you. You want to look for this right here, MS7C 9.1 version 1.0 this is. And for MSI, it's really easy to find these. These are readily available. So all you do is to Google this number that you have here and type in board view or schematic behind that. So let me open up the board view for this one. So here we are in the board view. Let's have a good look. This is our SIO, and it's this resistor. ATX5 VSB detect, you can see right here, and 5 VSB detect. So the ATX5 VSB goes into here, and the SIO needs to detect that. I can very much imagine that this can be a problem for it to then not be happy if it doesn't see that the ATX5 VSB gets to them. And this is a 2.55k ohm resistor. I will have to see if I have something similar to that, something that goes into the direction. So I found a suitable resistor on a donor board, and I want to be testing something out today. I got messaged by Fnizzy to test out a hot air gun. An intelligent all-in-one hot air gun with a station. This is more of a beginner one, because this is only like 400 or 550 watts, something like that. And it comes with its own power supply, but it has all-in-one cord. And I want to test out how well this will behave for beginners and how much you can do with that actually. So let's get everything out of the packaging first. Some nozzles and the actual gun I've already gotten out. And let's already also take this stand out. So first impression, the stand looks really beefy and feels very good. The stand has options for placing nozzles, for keeping them in here, and also removing nozzles, right, with this thing down there. And it seems to be fitting very well into there. First bad thing, I can already say, I do not like the design with this cord. The cord is long and flexible enough, that is a good thing. And everything is built into the handpiece. But it feels very light, and yeah, don't know about that. But it can be very light because it's only supplying 13 volts at 1 amp. And the other 240 volts is just going to the heating block. So the 13 volts is probably just for the display and for the fan that is in here. Maybe even the fan is also run on 240 volts. But let's plug this in then. I want to mention this is not something that you get if you already doing quite some repairs. This is something you would get as a first hot air station, definitely. So this wouldn't be anything for me because I have like the station that I have is way bigger, but also was way more expensive. I think this thing is about 55 euros and my hot air station costs 260 or something like that. So yeah, there's also a big difference in that. So I've plugged it in. Let's see, it has one button probably to start it. So I've got the nozzle now attached. So let's see, to start it we press this button, a little bit longer. It starts up, press any button to start heating. We press a button and we can go in increments of 25 from 450 down to 100. And we can change the hot air speed from 20 to 1. And then we have also 3 programmable presets. So very basic. Don't like the UI too much, to be honest. But for me it would be enough because I go like, I usually solder around 475 degrees. Let's see what 450 does on this thing. Or like 425, and let's go with a lower airspeed of like 6. And yeah, we will see how this will work. Let's see, to put this thing to sleep, you push this button and then you can put it into a stand and then it turns off by itself. I've gotten a donor board where we can take off that resistor. So let's go on the microscope. So let's see for the resistance. It should be, I think, this resistor right there. Man, my probes are so bad. So, and this is the resistor. 2.45k, so almost what we need. But this should be fine because this is supposed to be 2.55k. I found that in a schematic. So let's prepare this area then to take that one resistor and we will take that hot air station and see how well it performs. So as always what we do, to lower the melting point, we're going to be applying leaded solder to both sides of the resistor. And now let's take some tweezers So we're going to 425 degrees. I just started it at 6% airflow. And let's test this out now. So the airflow is very low. It probably will take quite some time to get this off of like that. But for beginners, lower air speed is often better, because you won't blow things away. Oh, but that was faster than I thought. That went just like expected with my big hot air station. Well, it's only 04 or 02 resistor, but still, that worked pretty well. So let's then see and put this on to our board that needs it. So here we have our resistor right there. Let's get it one side attached. Should be really using a smaller tip. That's just straight up lazy what I'm doing here. Just use a proper tip for this and get this resistor onto there. Right here. So now one side is tacked on. And let's now do the usual that I do. Is to get some flux onto there. Let's adjust the focus once more. And let's now let this heat up. This also has a sleep function. So that is also not bad. When you put it into the stand, it recognizes that and goes to sleep. So let's see. We just want to reflow this now. Okay, I didn't really even get it tagged on before, because it's not connected. I can move it. Yeah, now it's a little bit on. Okay, I gotta say, this thing is really heavy. Like, I got very small hands, and you really notice that that thing is completely as one. That you have everything in the handle, basically. Yeah, there's no leaded solder basically on the board, because you can see the leaded solder on the resistor itself is already molten, but the board isn't yet. So this is a good test of seeing if it can do non-leaded solder. And I think I'm probably way too low on my airspeed in order for this to work. It is set to 425 degrees, so it should be going, but it doesn't seem too powerful at 425. Let's go to 450. Let's see if 450 does it. If 450 doesn't cut it, we will need to up the airspeed. So are both sides now connected? Or is it only the top side? No, both sides are connected. Okay. So at 450 at that airspeed, that looked very nice. The good thing is, if you can use hot air stations like that, where you don't have to use high airspeed, that is great. Because, especially for beginners, it's hard to control these. To not blow away components. But compared to my usual station, I really noticed that this is a smaller wattage station, that it isn't as powerful as the one that I'm used to. But I will try. We will also be doing some tries with a higher airspeed, just to see. So let's check the resistance now. So to check also that our soldering is proper, we're going to connect to here and to this point right there. And we have 2.2 okay, ohms, 2.3. That is totally fine, because the area is also still hot. And I will be very interested now if this board now works. So I got to say, one thing that really annoys me about this station is the way that it turns off. Because turning on is not a problem, just pressing the middle button a little bit longer. And it heats up quite quickly. But the way that this shuts down I really don't like. If you want to shut this down, this goes now into a cooling mode, where it has to cool down from all the way that it had before. And especially if you use this longer, this will be hotter. And then you will have to wait or put it into a station while it's still blowing, because it uses its own blower motor to cool itself off, and only when it reaches a certain temperature it will turn off. Really don't like that feature, to be honest. But I guess if you don't care, you just put it into here and wait for it to turn off. And especially close to the end, it takes very long to cool down to like 80 degrees to then turn off. And it's off. Not a big fan, sadly, of that. But the stand is really good. So, yeah. So, let's see now how this board will behave. Let's go over to testing. I would guess that this might even not have a reaction to the power button with the knocked off components. So, we're going to start with a 2200G. It might not support that, actually, because I've had some B550 boards that don't support this processor. So we will have to see for that. Let's get one stick of DDR4 into here. Let's put also some... do we have post? Yeah, we do have postcode. Not postcodes, but debug LEDs. So we don't need the DDR post tester. But let's get the TPM one into here. Okay, there's no TPM header on here actually that I can use with my tester. Well then, let's just see how it behaves. So the DDR bug LEDs are here on the right, and we start at the very top with CPU. So let's zoom down on that. Let me get a power button and a speaker hooked up to this. And yeah, let's see then how this board now behaves. So let's see for its passive power consumption. 300 milliamps, that is quite a lot. Let's see for the press of the power button. But this looks fine. CPU LED 2.2 amps. So it's cycled. CPU LED out. 2.3 amps still. Let's see. Let me get the VGA connected to here just in case. 3.5 amps. And it complains about something. That might be it complaining about VGA. But that's a very good sign. Let's get the pause screen into here. Let's zoom out a little bit. We are at 4. Yeah, there it is. Oh, okay. This was an easy one. Yeah, well then. Okay, this was easy. Very lucky on this repair. And all of a sudden it already started up. That is very good to see. So yeah, just a knocked off resistor near to the SIO. We have seen that many times already. And this was a quite easy fix with that. So with this one already fixed, I want to try something on the hot air station. I want to see if it can remove the arm MOSes by itself, or like MOSFETs. Because that's basically the hardest thing I would expect it to be able to do. And yeah, I want to try that because small parts, this is definitely strong enough to do. So here we can see a part of a VRM. And I want to see if this thing can remove a MOSFET off of here. No ladle solder, nothing, no preheating. I want to test this because for me to be able to even recommend it at all, it definitely has to be able to do at least this without a preheater. Because this is not a big board. Like on boards that have a big ground plane, I would always use a preheater to remove these. But on a smaller board like this one, I would expect it to be able to remove these MOSFETs by itself. So what I did is I now detach the nozzle that it has. So without a nozzle, we're going to heat this up. We're going to go 450 degrees, like I would do it also on for MOSFETs. And we're going to turn the speed up to almost the maximum. So let's do 16 out of 20. And let's now heat this up and see if it can remove a MOSFET and how well that works. Because MOSFETs is almost the biggest thing that you're going to remove with hot air. The next big thing to MOSFETs are going to be... Oh yeah, that worked way better than I thought. Okay, are going to be SIOs. Yeah, okay. So this is very possible. Okay, I didn't expect that, to be honest. I thought this would struggle a lot more. But at 450 degrees, with 16% airflow, it took off those MOSFETs no problem. And we can also put them back. Yeah, that also works better than I thought. Got to say, like, the power that this thing has is really not bad. So I thought, especially because it's like limited to 550 watts, I thought that this would be way worse in soldering, especially if you take ground planes and like MOSFETs and stuff. Okay, I got to say that surprised me. With all the bad UI and everything, don't really like that. And the way it behaves for shutting down. But you cannot say anything against the power of this. Like, the hot air that comes out of this, really, really not bad. So right here we have the listing for it. And we can see the original price is basically 54 euros. And I got to say, the power of it for 54 euros is really good. Like, that really impressed me. What this can desolder is really good. And I also really like the stand that it got. I don't like the UI, I got to say. Really don't like that. Not my favorite, but you can definitely work with it, and increments of 25 is okay. Nozzles are fine, nothing special. It's nice that it has a sleep feature, but the shutting off procedure of this, I really don't like it. It takes so long to turn off, and it blows still while it's doing that. I really don't like that, but it's 54 euros here. Like, without any discounts, it's 54 euros, and that is not too bad. Because I'm using a Quick 261 DW, I think it's called. I'm using a version like this one from Quick, and these are close to 300 euros. And that's what I paid for mine also. And yeah, they are better because they have the design for like the tube, and then you have the easy way with the handle that is way lighter. But it's a lot of money. If you want to get into this hobby, I wouldn't recommend to buy this instantly, because you can learn a lot with this and get started with this. So for that, I can recommend it. But it has some quirks that I really don't like, or where I'm at a point with my very expensive station where I know how it could be better. So this is it for this repair already. I will be using the other boards in another video. I'm kind of short on content, so I will be using this. Sorry that a big part of it was only an ad or like a review for the station. So yeah, take this with a grain of salt. I was provided this for free, but I was able to say whatever I want to it. I think for a beginner, you can go very far with this. If you have small hands like me, this is a little bit more difficult to hold, because I usually hold it with 3 fingers, and that's a little bit weighty for 3 fingers. So holding it with the whole hand, it's easy, but getting a little bit more of precision out, a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I'm impressed with the power of it, and it's definitely usable. And the stand is great for it. Like, cannot say anything against that. And I got to say, the cord is less annoying than I thought. I really didn't notice it all too much. So, and with that, my camera died, as you can see, because it ran out of juice. So yeah, I will be ending on that. So thank you very much for watching. All of my tools will be linked in the video description, just like the hot air station. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.